All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 3 o'clock. So, well, welcome to the town hall meeting on Druid Hills. We had a little snafu here when I was putting this presentation together. If you look down there at the right bottom, it says June 9th, 2023. Well, there was one individual that kept pointing out that I had 32 down there. And I'm telling you, if I'm still talking about Druid in 2032, there's all kinds of problems that are going on. So we're going to try to take that and move it up a little bit. First of all, again, we do this every time, and mainly for the new people, so that that have not attended one of these before. I want you to know who the people are that are working on this, because these are the real people that are doing really the hard work to get this project done. So, myself. I'm the chairperson or the team leader for the steering committee, and I also act as the liaison from the board for golf and for the food and beverage piece. Steve Ballou, stand up. You're not going to get to sit. Steve is the chairperson for the food and beverage committee, and you'll hear from him in a little bit later on. Bruce Cox, back there in the back. He's the board member and our treasurer, and he also is the liaison somewhat with the food and beverage because the food and beverage reports to him, okay? Jeff Houston, who's not here today, he's out enjoying a concert, I understand, right? Hope it's somebody I like. Mike Johnson. Mike is the chairperson for the golf committee, so he represents a lot of the golf interests here. Raz Jones. He's the pro over at Druid Hills, and he's on the steering committee as well. Dave Miser. Dave is the chairperson for the MCPC, which is the Major Capital Projects Group, and they do a lot of the project management for us when these projects get started. And finally, Bob Weber, who's the GM. That's the steering committee. You're going to get a chance to meet the other committee members for both food and beverage and golf a little bit later on. Now, a lot of this we've been talking about for a couple of town hall meetings, but we want to go through it so you can see actually where we are now, because some decisions are starting to come together. If you take a look at the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see the original must-have requirements. When we first talked about Druid, these were the things that said they must be there. We knew we needed a golf shop. We knew central tea time was going to be housed here. We knew there needed to be an office for the director of golf and centralized receiving for all golf-related equipment and a food and beverage facility. And the food and beverage facility at that point was defined as really one for the golfers, and that's as far as we took it because we really hadn't gotten any community engagement with that. So where we are now, where we're still discussing requirements, there's some things that have started bubbling up, and a lot of this has come from the hard work in the committees and also talking to a number of people that have been through this, either from a consulting side or actual clubs that have actually built their new facilities, and we're finding out a lot of things that we want to make sure we take into consideration. One is adequate storage space for growth. I think every club GM or person that we interviewed or talked to, they said probably one of the most important things is they didn't have enough space for the storage and the growth of the facility. So that's one we're looking at. We've been looking at storage for the golf carts under the building, additional space needed for current staff. Mainly what that is about is a lot of central tea time. You know, the people right now in central tea time, you've probably never been in there, but you certainly probably, if you golf, you've talked to the people on the phone. Some of them share cubicles, share desks, and that kind of thing. We'd like to get everyone to where they have their own workspace. Separation of commercial and personal traffic. This has been a biggie. If you go into Druid right now, depending on what time of day you go there, you may run into trucks and everything else trying to go in and out of the same place you're trying to get into. And this is something that got identified early, and we really want to change the routing of vehicles so that we keep the personal stuff, your individual cars and that in one place, and all the commercial traffic someplace where it's not going to be interacting with the personal things. And then the other things that we've been talking about are certainly a separate snack bar area for golfers. There, what we're thinking is we need some place to at the turn so people can get their beverages or hot dogs or whatever it is they want and get on their way pretty quickly. We're looking at porch and deck area for outside covered seating, for eating and socializing, that type of thing. I would say everything that we've heard from people that, again, other clubs and that type of thing, and a lot of the information that Bob sent to the board in some publications he gives us, the fastest growing area for eating right now are outside. And that's what everybody's telling us. And we've been to clubs where their outsides oftentimes will fill up even quicker than their insides. So that's another thing we're looking at. And flexible space in the food and beverage area to allow for activities and private functions. There's been a lot of conversation, a lot of comments from people about the use of the building for card playing and for game playing and that kind of thing, and we haven't lost that. We're still talking about how that can be arranged. All right. These are the same questions we started out in the very first time that we ever talked about Druid with the town halls. There's two questions we're trying to answer. What does the community want above the must-haves? What are the requirements for the Druid Hills Clubhouse? And what will the community support above the must-have requirements for the Druid Hills Clubhouse? We have spent probably, through the committees and the steering committee and even the board, probably 80% of our time up until now with what do people want. We're going to be shifting that over the next couple months into what will people support, because it doesn't make us any different. It does us no good to build a facility or anything that we do over there if people aren't going to use it. You know, what we're trying to do, and we said this from the very start, is we're trying to get out of the subsidy business, and that means that if people aren't going to support it, we probably aren't going to do it. So you'll be hearing a lot more, and there'll be some other activities that are going to be happening in the not too distant future about really what people will support. That's going to be the focus now. So the questions are not going to be nearly as general as they were, because the general questions got us to the requirements, and you're going to hear a lot about that today. But the future conversations are going to be a lot more targeted about what we support. Okay. Guess what? I'm done for a while. You're supposed to applaud at that, I think. See, Steve, they really like you. All right, golf committee, Michael.
Well, first of all, we've gotten to where we are on this project. We have visited, interviewed, researched over 30 golf clubs across the country. So what you're going to see is not anything that's revolutionary or new. We're, in fact, actually catching up to what other golf courses are doing around the country. I don't know. See, I knew this would be the hardest part. This is the makeup of the golf committee. Myself, I know some of the members are here. Carolyn Boyle, who represents the ladies' 9-hole. Jim Santee, Nancy Harper, Jim Morrison, Dennis Radford, Dean Mariani, Ted Tell. Jeff is head golf pro, and then Greg. This is the layout for the driving range. As you can see on the far right is where the Golf Performance Center will be, the driving range with some target areas, and then the putting course on the far left. This is an overview of the Golf Performance Center. One thing I want you to notice is that we believe this is going to be very successful just based on the amount of business that Adam is doing currently. And one of the things in the design with the architect, you can see it's a dotted area right through there. And that is to allow us to add a third bay, because we believe it's going to be very successful. Fairfield Glade is continuing to grow, and we believe that business will be enough that at some point in time we'll need a third bay So we've already planned for that so that we don't have to do anything else to the building except add on to it. This is what the exterior will look like. Going through the front, there'll be a bathroom both indoor, accessible from outdoor, and one accessible from indoor. This is the interior. If there's one thing that we heard through all the research and all the courses we talked to, they said they built their facilities too small. So we have tried to incorporate that and give plenty of room. And Adam, if you want to talk to the specifics of how it's laid out.
Up top, the far left, there's a two-bay hitting facility. I'm pretty loud anyways, but up at the top far left here, it's a two-bay hitting facility that would face on the right side of Druid Hills driving range, out towards the driving range. So the two bays would be used for someone to teach and also fit clubs. So in years past, we've offered 3 or 4 companies worth of equipment here for people to try at each facility. And what we did last year was incorporate everything at one facility so people didn't have to drive around the community to try multiple different products. Everything was at one location. And this year we've sold up to 10 different companies' products, trying to offer more variety to the community. So if you like a certain brand, you don't have to go to Knoxville or Nashville. So this two-bay facility would allow us to split 4 or 5 companies' equipment up in each bay. That way we'd have room for everyone to test the clubs and do club fittings. We can give lessons on one side of the bay and do a club fitting on the other side at the same time if need be. And if there is any downtime, we would let people book those spots in like an open hour just for hitting on rainy days or cold winter days as well, just to also use better use of the facility. The rest of the design incorporates an office for the golf professional that's running the facility, and then also the club would start to own the club repair and regripping business. Grips are like tires. You may not want to buy new clubs, but you always have to have new grips. And as many golfers as we got, we regrip 20 to 30 people's clubs a week. So it's much needed space there to just do that and provide a better service. We have a utility closet, which is a must-have, and a little lobby entrance for people to rest in or wait in between fittings or lessons. That restroom there could be accessed outside the building, so if you're making the turn or you're at the driving range and just want to use the restroom and you don't want to run in to the pro shop. And then also an interior restroom that can be used for people doing the fittings. And then the little covered porch area on the left is, since that would be sitting right on the range, we'd probably have a couple lounge chairs there and the golf ball dispenser out of the range so people could get their range balls. Any questions on that part? Go ahead, Scott.
The bay doors into the practice space during winter or whatever could be closed and used for training.
Hold on a second. We've got streaming going on, so if you got questions, come up here.
Okay.
So everybody can hear. Because people at home won't hear.
At home? Oh. I was wondering on the hitting bays, if you close the door, if they could be used with TrackMan, if the screen would go out and incorporate TrackMan usage into that.
That is our hopes, just to offer more variety. TrackMan has invented a screen that rolls up and down behind the garage door to allow this to also be a double simulator use if need be. So you could rent it to hit balls out in the driving range, or you could rent it currently like we do in the TrackMan room. So they would be hopefully 2 of those screens there offered. If a league wanted to play in the winter, they would be able to do so now, because we would have enough for 8 to 10 people to play at one time, as opposed to here we just have the one facility. But yes, you could use it for that. Any other questions about that design or layout?
This is the financial projections. Part of it is based on what Adam actually did in 2022. what it's been updated for what he's doing in 2023, and then reasonable growth going forward. One of the things you'll see is the bay rental, and this is what Adam was talking about. We've been approached by a couple of different manufacturers about coming up and doing demo days for their clubs and fitting. And they've offered to rent the bays out for them for that to do, which is extra income for us and pretty much zero expense. And that's the end of the golf. Steve, your turn.
All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. Let me figure this thing out. Nope. First, I'd like to thank everybody that participated in the focus groups and the emails that we received and the surveys. Without y'all's help, we couldn't have put all this together. Also want to thank our subcommittee. I'm the chairman. Mary Jacobson, she'll stand up as we go through. She's the vice chair. Mike McElroy, he's the secretary. Mike Epler, Lindsay Waldrop, Mark Carlock, Raj Jones, and the advisor group was David Miser and Adams Horn, who just walked in. Like Greg said earlier, from the beginning of this, the question was, it first presented on the September 17th, 2021 Fairfield Glade annual meeting. What does the community want, and what the must-haves, and what will the community support? The overall clubhouse project, we pretty much have got the first part down, but what will the community support? The community as defined was the primary community members, the timeshare owners and guests, and the golf club packages. The additional segments of the potential customer markets, golf and racket tournament participants and spectators, the non-lodging golfers, and Cumberland County residents and businesses. The primary community is based on customer volume. Our member group is comprised of residents, non-residents, and Glade members, and the constituents of the largest potential group. Timeshare owners and guests are an increasing customer group. Wyndham reports now they have 80 to 95% occupancy rates during peak season months, April through October. Based on the 2023 golf package reservations, golf package guests are anticipated to be approximately 5,000 golfers each month on the peak season, with an increase of about 1,500 golfers per month over last year. With outreach efforts, the additional segments noted could be potential golf customers. The methods we used to get the information, we had the Druid Hills email. We received about 300 emails relating to the food and beverage. The town hall meetings, we had 3 of those, and 2 annual meetings presentations. The magnified articles published in June 2022 and August of 2022, with updates included the board of directors updates to Glade members and 2 surveys that went out. The first survey went out, we had 32% response rate, defined demographics and dining habits. The focus group 1 participants answered 3 questions that defined members' expectations of future Druid Hills food and beverage operations and the venue. The focus group 2 participants provided input to defining details and expectations and shaped questions for survey number 2. Member survey number 2, 51% response rate. Members also included summary responses from Wyndham Management, golf package organizers, and timeshare owners, define the community requirements for Druid Hills food and beverage operations. We had meetings with the Wyndham management, golf package organizers, and timeshare owners. Those meetings yielded requirements from these community segments. And here's what we came up with. Casual dining, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was the highest response rate. Outdoor dining area, covered and uncovered. Large bar, inside food and beverage space. Flexible space for meeting rooms, cars, and private parties. Glass walls that open to outside dining. Space for indoor and outdoor musicians and entertainment. Yes, sir. Yep. He's over here, he's got it.
I've got a microphone right here for you.
Sit. Yeah, what is your parameters and how do you determine what we will support? What are your parameters and who determines what we will support?
Well, that's the next part. That's going to be the hard part. Always think about that philosopher, Mick Jagger, what he said once before. You can't always get what you want, but you might get what you need. The space for the indoor and outdoor musicians and entertainment, booth seating, outdoor seating area by fire pit, multiple TVs in the bar area, and separate dining area for golfers post-round. Any questions on these findings so far? Next steps are going to be cooperation with the Clubhouse architect on the food and beverage spaces. Then we get those fancy pictures that everybody got to see from golf. We'll have those. Continued updating the members through magnified articles and town hall meetings. Develop and conduct a third community focus group and survey defining what will they support focused on the menu and other items like that. And develop the business case as additional data becomes available. And that concludes my part. Is there any questions real quick? Yes, sir.
The first item was casual breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
Define casual.
What you see is what you get. That's us. We're all
Okay.
casual right now.
I think the majority of people at the town hall said, we want another restaurant,
Yeah, restaurant.
okay? Is it going to be a sports bar?
It's going to be casual dining. It's sports bars. You can't really define sports bar because everybody has a different interpretation. We found that out through the focus groups and surveys. Everybody has a different opinion of what a sports bar is.
How big of an area would that be?
That's part of the stuff that we're working on.
Is it going to
right
be the same size as Stonehenge, where you have to have 8 people to eat?
now. I'll let Greg take that one. That's part of what we're working on right now is sizes.
I mean, we had to have 8 people to make a reservation. I haven't eaten there since.
Okay, so let's talk about that, because those are the questions that we need to get into when we talk about what does the community support, okay? Druid is going to be something different than Stonehenge. Let's start there, okay? And it was always the part of the board's strategic planning for food and beverage that Druid was always considered to be a casual sports bar kind of venue. What that really means is we're not expecting suit and ties. It probably is not going to be white linens. It probably is going to be people that come and go and come in, and it's not going to be fast food, but it's not going to be high-end steaks, salmon, high-end kinds of meals. So the things that we're going to have to get into in the support area are things like, well, what menu price points will the community support? And what kind of menus do you want over there? That's going to determine a lot of it. And in terms of spacing, what's going to get into with that is going to be what can we afford as well as what people want, okay? And there's going to have to be a mix of that, and there's going to have to be a come to an agreement meeting on the fact about what the size of these things are going to be.
I heard somebody on the committee saying, this needs to be a place for all the package deals to come and drink and eat. Well, the majority of the people that will come there year-round are not package deals, and
Well,
we're
let's-
not a bunch of drinkers.
Let's talk about that, okay? All of our restaurants, Stonehenge included, are public places. What that means is, we can't exclude people, and we won't.
Yeah,
So
but
people that are here, that live here, people that are here as timeshare people, and people that are here for golfing, or any other guests or people from Rossville that want to come up, we're not excluding those people from coming.
I'm not saying to exclude, but I don't think that is the major focus of that casual diner, to put them ahead of our residents.
I don't think we've ever said that.
Well, I heard it.
Well,
I've heard it many times.
Well, I will say, and we have talked about this in the steering committee and in the groups, that we do want to encourage the packages to come here. Because quite honestly, we lose a lot of people every evening to Spikes, Reds, places down in Crossville and every place else. That's revenue. Now, the truth of the matter is, and we're not excluding this from members. I mean, members are going to be the people that are going to have probably the most say on all of this. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't have packages and you don't have timeshares, you will be subsidizing this. And it won't be a small number. So the reality is, we all have to kind of live together.
Yeah, but
And
you
we're not
gotta,
going to exclude anybody, but we're not going to give anybody else preferential treatment other than members. Members will continue to get discounts that others don't.
but members will pay to construct this.
That's true.
You should listen to us, not visitors. We're going to pay for it, not them.
And our intention is, that's one of the reasons why we're looking at construction costs, capital costs, if you will be, differently than operating costs. The business case that the food and beverage people worked on, and as far as that goes, the business case that was done for the Performance Center, are all O&M, operation and maintenance, what we call operating expenses. They don't take into account the capital component of that. So one of the things that we know as we get closer and we really define what the capital piece is going to be, we're going to come back to the community. The community is probably going to have a vote on this. But we have to do the hard work of getting the options and determining and showing the community what those options are, why they exist, how they got there, and then give the community an opportunity to give us direct feedback on where you want to go with it. So none of that's been excluded, and to the point that some people are going to participate, like packages and that, yes, we need those people here. We need to have them in those restaurants. We need them over at Stonehenge. So the truth of the matter is that if you're going to run an operation, you've got to make sure that you've got all the cylinders clicking on getting as many good customers as you can in the door. Otherwise, we will be in subsidy land, and that's not where we want to go. Okay? So there's a long way before we get there. Yep.
Thank you. I was just wondering if Wyndham, Mr. Anderson are going to contribute to, or have we actually spoken to them about, do they have plans in the future to build something that would work for them specifically? I just don't know if that's been contemplated, talked about. Certainly would impact what we would do if there were future plans for something else.
Absolutely. And the only thing that we know about right now is the developer said that he is putting up a restaurant by the Grove area. We don't know all the details of it, the size or the menu or the price points or anything like that. But we are considering, when we take a look, especially when we get into the sizing discussion, we have to consider what others are doing. Because we're not going to build a huge facility and then find out we've got 6 competitors that make that huge facility not supportable. So yes, the answer to it is, yeah, we keep our ears very open to what others are doing, including others that are talking about going out of business too. So yeah, we try to do the best we can. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not, because the other piece of this is that we're we're building these things for years and years and years, and there's only so far out your crystal ball can go, okay? All right, yeah.
Yeah, there was some statistics given there related to the amount of package groups coming in versus timeshares, et cetera. I would like to hear a statement from someone to speak to specifically golf. I moved here for golf. So if we're making this more attractive, which I think is great to do, where are we going from the standpoint of where the local residents will have more difficulty getting access to tee times? Can someone speak to that?
Well, I think what we've done with golf, I'm also the golf liaison board member, so I know a little bit about this, and Raj and you guys can chime in here wherever you want. But one of the big things that changed is now preferred members can get their tee times, 2 weeks ahead of time? 2 weeks ahead of time. No one else, guests and that type of thing, have that ability. So what it does, if you really are trying to get the golf in, yes, it's going to get more crowded because we're a very popular place, both for packages and our own preferred rounds. But I just saw the monthly golf statistics this yesterday, I guess it was. And the thing that surprised me was last year was a very busy year for us, right? I think we'd all agree with that. We set records for the numbers of rounds. This month, for the first time, and Jeff said it was since May of 2012, we went over 22,000 rounds of golf. And the two biggest drivers of that, in terms of where the most people came from, were preferred members and packages. And again, the thing that I would tell you is one of the things that keeps the preferred package rates where they are is the fact that we have packages that subsidize a whole lot of that money. So there's always going to be a balance. I mean, I'm a golfer too. And when I want to play golf, I want to play golf. But the fact of the matter is we're going to have to coexist in those. And what it's told me is that when I want to play golf, I maybe have to plan a week earlier than what I thought. So I tried to do that. And I have never had a problem yet of getting on somewhere at some time.
Well, the good thing about those package golfers, when I see it raining and pouring outside, they must be the ones playing golf.
They are. Believe me, I was one of those years and years and years ago, and I spent a miserable weekend and finally put my clubs in the car and said, I'm done. But those are all good questions. I want to go over a couple other things for everyone here. So, what's the next thing? Where are we with the project and where are we going with it? Which I think is important for the community to understand. There's a couple streams of work that we talk about when we talk about Druid. One is the driving range and putting course, and you've heard a lot about that today. It is our plan to take to the committee, or to the board, I should say, at the June board meeting, a PR to fund the construction of the driving range and the putting course. Now, you're probably going to say, well, how much is that? We're working on the PR right now, so we'll have all of that together, so please listen at the board meeting and you'll hear what the amount is, okay? But for me to tell you that right now would be a little premature because there's still some things we're checking on. Then, what the next step will be with the Performance Center is we're right in the process now of finishing what are called the construction drawings. What you saw on the performance are what are called conceptual drawings, which in other words, they don't have the specifics that you can send out to a request for proposal for someone to actually construct the building because it doesn't have all the dimensions and that kind of thing. So the architects that we hired to do that work are completing those construction drawings right now, and then the next step after that is that we'll send out a request for proposal, an RFP, for the construction of the Performance Center. Now, it's important to note that there's a sequence to this, and the sequence is you do the driving range first before you can do the Performance Center, because the Performance Center, if you remember the picture, as a matter of fact, I'll try to get us back there. There we go. Okay. If you take a look at that place, that little gray box is the teaching facility, so that's the performance center. So we're planning on lowering the driving range area, the tee box area, so that when you hit a drive, or even more importantly, a short shot off of that, you can actually see where your ball lands. Today, you can't do that all the time. So that's the first phase. But when we lower it, we can't do anything with the performance center until we've done that work. So there's a sequence that comes to this, and that's why you'll hear things about the driving range, putting course, before you do the performance center. But independent from that is the clubhouse. The clubhouse has kind of its own life to a certain extent. Although what we've been told by our land use consultant that we talked about this about over a year ago, was their advice was, please, whatever you do, don't do anything with the clubhouse construction till you've done the driving range and the putting course, because if you don't do it first, then you're going to have problems getting back in there with construction equipment and everything later. And you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And I also want to point out with the putting course, it's not just putting the course in. If you remember, go back to your old days and think of Druid, if you remember that parking lot as you go by the clubhouse front, all the way up at the top, that all has to all be torn out. And that's where the putting course is going. So there's a lot of work that's got to be done with that. So it's not like a day or two kind of thing. It's going to take weeks, if not a month, month and a half. So that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. So the next big thing for the clubhouse will be, oh, I better get back down to my other one. It's there somewhere. Whoops. All right. Went a bridge too far. But the next big thing for the clubhouse is we're going to be letting a request for proposal for what's called a clubhouse architect. Now, this is what most of you have been wanting to see for a long time. The clubhouse architect will take our requirements, and what they'll do is translate that into drawings, like the conceptual drawings that we saw for the performance center, so that people can get a good idea of what we're talking about. Yeah? Hold on. I'm going to get to that in a second, okay? The question was about the land that we are getting to swap with the developer, and I'm going to get to that in a second. So after we get the next big thing will be analyzing the responses and recommend contractor for the performance center construction. Much like we did with the driving range and putting course, we go through the architectural piece, then we go to the construction piece, and that's how we'll do the same thing here. And then finalize and analyze the response for the clubhouse architect and get that person or company going so that we can get the design. Now, I do want to spend a minute of where we are with the land, okay? As of today, what we're waiting on for the land is a survey. Surveyors right now are very busy people, and we don't have the survey completed. Our promise to you has been that we will not turn one spade of dirt until that land agreement is signed, and we're not there yet. So we will not do anything in terms of actual starting construction, even though we may get PRs approved. We won't start any construction until we have that document signed, sealed, and delivered. Because again, we're not going to do developmental things on land we don't own, okay? Does that answer your question? What more do you want to know? Get a microphone, please.
I would like to know how we did it in the first place, that you built something on something you didn't own, and how do we assure that you won't do it again?
I don't have a Wayback Machine.
I didn't ask that. I asked, how did that happen?
I don't know.
Someone had to be responsible.
I don't know.
You don't know, but can you find out?
I'm not sure anyone around here really knows anymore. And
somebody knows.
We're past that point because it's a conversation for no possibility. Whatever we find out is just going to be a fact or a factoid, depending on who you talk to. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. We are where we are. We know who owns the land. We know what land we own. And the fact of the matter is that we need to make this exchange of land, a transfer of land, so that we can build on the land that we then would own. Okay? Up, up, up. Yeah, no, but you got to do it so. Okay.
I have
The
a
question was,
question
what
for you
date
in the
would
back
all
of the
this be
room.
accomplished by? You don't see dates up there because we're working through that process. You know, until we get the land transferred, there's little we can do, and there's nothing we will do, because it doesn't make any sense to start doing things and improving land that we don't own. We're not going to do that. And that was our promise from the very first meeting when we sat down here, and we even disclosed at that meeting that we didn't own the land. And we've been back and forth, and we've gotten an agreement now in principle, but now we got to get the legal documents together to get that done. And I can't give you a date on that because right now we don't know it. Okay?
I have a question in the back of the room. Can you go back to the first slide that you showed of the layout of the driving range area?
Yep. If I can find my clicker, I will.
Thank you.
That one? No.
That one, thank
Okay.
you. Okay, you've got that set out in a Y formation.
Yeah.
What is the eastern boundary of that? Right now, you have a forest, and then you have a walking trail behind that. I can see a couple of people that live right on that walking trail area. How far is that going to encroach back in there? Is there any sort of scale on this?
At this point, and that's one of the questions we're going to know the answer to once we get the survey done, okay? But it's our intention not to encroach on any walking trails or that type of thing. But again, this is a very complex piece of property to even survey, because it's, I don't know who did some of these plots out, but they must have been at some party sometime, and it was very late in the evening when they got those things out to draw some of the plots out. But the fact of the matter is, it's not a nice, you can tell just even from this, it's not a nice square or rectangle piece of property. It's got all kinds of waves and wiggles to it. And part of it we own, part of it's in the land transfer piece. So that's one of the big reasons why we don't want to do anything again until we get the survey down. But our intention is not to encroach on any walking trails or that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Any questions? This is your chance. Wow, I'm almost amazed. I do want to do a couple other things, though. I want, again, all the committee members, if you participated in a focus group, if you've done anything with committees, I want you to stand up. I'm glad you applauded, because this community owes an awful lot to the people that were standing. I'm sure there were probably some people standing up at home too. But the fact of the matter is that we wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are if it had not been for the hard work of people. And I can honestly tell you, I know the food and beverage people will do this, and I'm going to duck real quick so they don't throw something at me. But the fact of the matter is, this has been a journey a lot longer, probably, and a lot tougher than any of you thought you were getting into. And we're still not done yet. So the big thing there is that we really, and we meant this from the very start, we want community involvement. We want to make sure what we do at Druid is something the community will support. And we will, before we do construction, make sure that you know what the costs and everything's going to be with that, so that you have a say in what that is. It's not going to be 7 people on the board or 8 or 9 people on the committee that's going to make this decision. It's going to be the community. So our intention is to make sure that we come back with viable options, have a good discussion at a town hall meeting about what you like and what you don't like, and it's up to us to show you how those requirements gets transferred into designs to say, well, this is what it's going to look like, and if you don't like that and you like this, this is what's going away, or this is what's can be added. So it's going to be an interactive thing that we're going to need to get into for everybody to understand, because we want you to be clear about this, before we make a decision and know exactly what you're getting into.
Sir? Yes, I have a question. Those 2 member surveys that were sent out by email had a bunch of questions on them about what people wanted, or what their preferences were, what they didn't like to do, what they do like to do. Do you plan to release those results question by question?
I meant to say that, but I got distracted, so you got to keep it with me because my memory's short sometimes. But yes, the intention is for the second survey, which is really the detailed one about the real wants. Our intention is to put a link on the member site, and anybody can go in and read it, look at the data, come back and, ask questions or whatever they want about it. So that's the intention for that, yes. The first one, probably not, because that was really more internal for the subcommittee, just to get an idea about when people like to eat and that kind of thing. So the second one, yes, that's the one that we actually used a consulting firm to do that work. So yes, our intention is to do that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm still inquiring about the tennis court that's along Lakeview. Is there any way of saving that? Because I have seen a lot of activity on it, I guess with families there are a lot of children and adults.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to do away with the tennis courts. If we build Druid, we're going to have additional employees. The footprint's going to be different. We expect more traffic because of the performance center and that type of thing. We need the parking, is the truth of the matter. And that area is going to have to become parking area. So yes, the tennis courts will be going.
How soon will these PowerPoint slides be available on the website or someplace for us to get a copy of them?
How soon, Bob, that's a question. You know how soon it will take it to post them?
Probably next week sometime.
There you go.
We've heard a lot of conversation today and previously about conflict between residents and timeshare and package golfers. It seems to me if you offer a good menu at a reasonable price, then there's no conflict. Everybody likes to eat good food at a reasonable price. And if we don't offer it, then they're going to go to town to get it. And we're going to go to town to get it. It should be looked at as a menu that draws everyone, and everyone likes good food.
That's exactly what we're striving for. I mean, you probably said it a lot better than I did, but that's exactly what we're looking for. The only people who are going to get any preference in that is the membership. At a minimum, you're going to get the discount that you get over at Stonehenge right now. So no one else is going to get that. So from that perspective, we're trying to be mindful of the fact that, and I'll say it for myself, and I'm sure every other board member, we pay the same dues you do. So when we start talking about what things are going to cost and what can happen to assessments and to things like that, we're equally interested as you are about what that means. So the idea is that if we don't do that, what you said, then we will fail. Because we have gone to the packages. We have gone to Wyndham. We've talked about what their people are wanting. We've talked to them about what kinds of things they'd like to see, not just in menu, but also at the golf center and the performance center and the putting green or the putting course and things like that. So we've been very active in trying to get everyone's opinion about what they want, because it's got to work for all of us, right?
Greg?
Yeah.
What I heard you say a minute or so ago, and I could be wrong, that's why I'm asking, that I thought you were saying that the people that live here will have the final vote on the Druid Hills project and not the board? That's what I heard you say.
No, I think it'll be, it'll be a combination of both. I don't think the board will do something that the membership don't do. All right, so I think that there'll be both, but it's going to have to be a conversation as well, because everyone has to be looking at this the same way. Otherwise, again, we won't be successful. Any other questions? Well, if not, there was one other thing I wanted to do here, since we had Adam here. I was going to have him kind of give you an update on where he is with the Performance Center right now, because it's a story that's worth telling, because a lot of people don't understand what the Performance Center can do for us. And I think, and this is mainly for the membership, really, and I think you'll get a little good idea about where we are this year.
So over the past 10 years or so, an average of club sales that were sold in Fairfield Glade was around $76,000 on average. And last year, with Jeff starting this new position and trying to get all the clubs into one place and hiring a manager of player development, we were able to sell $244,000 worth of clubs. So we almost quadrupled our club sales. So there's a lot of profit involved in that. And then also I was able to give 300 or 400 lessons in the first year, doing it out of just of the office down there and on the driving range. The other guys didn't lose any lessons. They're actually just as busy as they've ever been, just evaluating what some of the other communities do across the state. We undersold how many lessons we can give compared to how many golfers there are. There's unfortunately always bad golf swings around. It's a hard game, and people need help. So I think the numbers help support the fact that this is something that helps the community, helps the members. I would say around 70% of what I do is all within people that live within Fairfield. But it also brings money in from surrounding communities and visitors. Just a testimony to last week, a gentleman came in to visit here on timeshare, him and his wife, and they seen our website under the golf instruction page. He booked a fitting with us while he was here and bought $3,100 worth of clubs that we drop shipped to his house. So Golf Galaxy in Nashville or back home in Illinois where he was from could have gotten that if it wasn't for Jeff putting this position together to allow us to step up and sell more clubs. So just as of a date for May 17th, I put together I was at the steering committee I was at. So we, last year we sold $42,000 of clubs that we sell, and then $26,000 of clubs that we've ordered from PXG because we have a little bit different partnership with them. So that was $69,000 in club sales as of May 17th for last year. And as of May 17th this year, we were at $94,000. So it's continued to increase this year and seems to be a profitable thing. And then also lesson revenue and fitting income that is as for the community has almost doubled, tripled in that same amount of time. So I think that just helps to get a picture of why we came up with the idea for the Performance Center and maybe help us to catch up with the times a little bit and be the centralized place between Knoxville and Nashville where people can come to get lessons and buy clubs.
Yeah, if you've not been over there, especially if you're a golfer and you've not been over for one of the fitting days and that, it's well worth your time. The only problem is I had my wife go take a couple lessons from Adam, and now she's doing better than I am, and so we got to get that corrected, Adam. No more lessons for her, or at least anyway, I'm going to get signed up for a couple. So, but I wanted to let you know how that was looking, because what that really says is that business plan that we have there, we're outperforming that already based on where we are in 2023. And it has become a major thing. I mean, just if you try to go over and see Adam, it's difficult to see him because he's usually giving a lesson or doing a fitting or something like that. And by the way, the fittings, what do they cost now? $55. Before he was here, I went and got a fitting. I had to drive to Nashville, and it cost me $300. So this is a real benefit for members here. And it's something that a lot of clubs wish they could do. So, all right. Well, thank you all for your time on this beautiful day, and have a good rest of the weekend, and we'll see you next time.
The group did a good job. The group did a good job. I think it was a good thing. The usual hecklers, but